What is up, guys? Welcome to another video, and today we are back on Need for Speed 2015, and today we're gonna give my thoughts about the game so far. Now, originally I actually had a commentary planned, and it was just a normal about 30-minute commentary, I think, and it was alright, but I kind of want to re-record it and just do it again. And I saw Black Panther's video about it, and he had a kind of live com setup where he was showing the things as he was doing it, and I really like that kind of method of doing things, so I think that's how I'm gonna do my video, of, you know, just talking about the game and my overall opinions. For once, I've actually wrote notes in a video, so if that does make a difference in the commentary, make sure to let me know. But today, we're going to go ahead and talk about Need for Speed 2015. Very, very controversial in some aspects, but in my opinion, it's the best Need for Speed game we've had in years. In no means is it perfect. It's not perfect. No game is perfect. But it's definitely the best game we've had in years. Alright, so I'm just going to quickly pause this here, because I kind of forgot to give my backstory about where I am with Need for Speed and stuff. So, just quickly now, I'm going to explain kind of my backstory with Need for Speed, and where I come from, and how Need for Speed has affected me in my life. So, Need for Speed is a game that I've always played. I've played it since pretty much since I can remember. It's kind of the series that really got me into gaming, and I've kind of had this kind of bond with this series for a very long time. I think it got up to the point in, I think it was Hot Pursuit 2010-ish, where I kind of just gave up on the series. I was really pissed off about how the series was going, and I kind of just left and took a hiatus of the series for a bit, and then I came back around Rivals time, and that's when I picked back up on the series. At this point, I own basically all the games. I've played through most of all the titles in the series, minus a few of the PS1 titles and stuff. And I'm a pretty big Need for Speed fan. I've always been one of those people that has been kind of asking for a game, a Need for Speed game with customization and this open world underground setting, quote unquote. You know, this is something I've been pushing for a very long time. I was kind of part of that Craig It Up era where everyone was kind of going through that phase, and I fought for this game mod. I think it's fair enough to say I fought for this game as much as you guys did, as much as, you know, many others did, and, you know, I've been wanting a game like this for ages. Now, in terms of the kind of position EA have put me in, I was invited to go out to their studios in February and play the game, however couldn't due to age implications, and I was given the opportunity to actually record Need for Speed early a couple of weeks ago. And as far as me and EA, that's really all that goes. I just kind of want to make that clear so you guys understand where I'm coming from as I'm speaking about this. I don't want anything to be left up in the air about, you know, oh, he's being paid by EA. No, this is my opinion. This is my opinion, and that's how I may or may have not been affected by EA's things. I don't think I was particularly biased when I'm making this video. I'm recording this afterwards because I kind of forgot to say this. I don't think I was very biased in the video. I think I gave a pretty constructive opinion. But with that being said, I'm gonna let you guys enjoy the rest of this commentary. You know, the best game I can think of since Midnight Club LA. Straight up, like I can't think of many other games that really compete with Need for Speed's level of customization and just general just how it performs in game. It's one of the most funnest games I've played, if that's a word. I don't know if that's a word. It's one of the most funnest games I've played, and I don't know, I just think the overall experience is really balanced, but you know, that doesn't mean it's perfect. It's not perfect, and we'll talk about that, you know, throughout this video. So I'm going to break this up into separate areas of the game and talk about the good points and bad points of those areas. So, for example, story, the wrap editor, the customization, etc., etc. The first on the list is story. Now, the story, it's a great addition to the game. I'm glad it's in there the way it is. I kind of would have it in a different way if I was writing the story, and I will talk about that a little bit later. But I'm glad that a story has made a return. It's not really like the Zephyr thing, which we had in Rivals. It's actually a good story, which, again, I'm really happy is a thing. Obviously, you've got the 5 characters, with being Manu, Amy, Robin, Spike, and the outlaw guy. I'm not gonna spoil anything, so I'm just gonna say he's the outlaw guy. And basically those are the 5 people who are in your crew, and then you have the icons, Ken Block, Marahashi-san, Nakai-san, etc., etc. And I really like that kind of aspect of things, although, and this is kind of my main gripe with the story, is I'd kind of like it to have a bad guy in there, an antagonist, to be more specific. Yeah, it's all good having 5 people who are your friends and stuff, but it feels like generally the game isn't illegal, and by that I mean it doesn't feel gritty like most Wanted or Underground did. Underground felt illegal, you know, you had to beat Kleb, and you know, obviously in Underground 1 it was Eddie and all that lot, and it felt really underground and like you were doing something wrong. In Need for Speed 2015 it feels ever so slightly too, you know, friendly. That's the only way I can really explain it. So that's definitely something I'd change, is just to make it a bit more gritty, and that'll obviously reflect a bit later in some of my later points, because again, it just kind of feel like everyone's friends and no one's really out to get you like people were in Most Wanted. Like in Most Wanted, you had Razor and Cross, and they wanted your ass dead, and that was really thrilling through the story. Some of the serious points in the story, you couldn't really take it seriously just because it was cheesy. I feel like although Most Wanted was cheesy, and although Underground 2 is cheesy, some of the really hardcore moments you could kind of take seriously just because the actual story itself and the atmosphere itself was a bit more gritty. So that's something generally I like to see, but overall the story, I'm really glad it's in there, because you know, we haven't had a proper story in a Need for Speed game in so long, so I'm really glad it's in there, and I'm really glad it's made a return. So that's the story done and over with. Next, we're going to go ahead and talk about customization. So I'm going to quickly go ahead and skip to the garage here. Okay, so obviously customization is back in Need for Speed, and it's back in a big way. This is the first time we've had this type of customization in a racing game, period, for a very long time. Off the top of my head, I'm going to say Midnight Club LA. Or maybe, I mean, the crew had kind of customized it. It wasn't like this, though. I think the last licensed game and kind of, you know, on the level it was with Need for Speed is probably Midnight Club LA. So it's been a long time since we had customization. And now, as you can see, with my Porsche, a lot of kits. Now, obviously, the Porsche's only got the GT3 kit, but as well as that, you know, you can change the fenders, the ride height. You know what? Let's just go ahead and buy a car from scratch. I don't really want this NSX, so I'm just going to go ahead and sell that for how much money? And we'll go ahead and just buy a random car, which I kind of really want. Let's just go ahead and just buy an S2K. I mean, that was completely random. I haven't played with this car yet, I don't think. I played with it in the beta, but that's really about it. So, we've got an S2K. Now, you could do batshit crazy stuff to it. You can put a wide kit on, and I know for a fact this had some mad wide kits. Look at that kit! That's ridiculous! And then, on top of that, you can do the hood stuff, and then you can do the window tin, and you can do, you know, the front splitters, and the actual bumper itself, and all that kind of stuff. It's mad the amount of customization you can do. And obviously, more cars. Some of the tuner cars and some of the older cars have a lot more customization than other cars, and that's to be expected, to be honest. You know, I mean, Ferrari, we all know, aren't particularly good with the licensing aspect of things, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but the customization is amazing. You know, the amount of stuff you can do to the car, I mean, look at those freaking headlights, they're just absolutely mad. You can really do a lot to the car, and I think that's kind of evident from how many videos I've made from the customization itself. It's the richest we've had in a Need for Speed game, in the sense that everything's licensed and everything's real, and they have made certain kits, and that's completely fine, but most of it, if not all of it, is actually licensed parts that have been made from real life manufacturers. But obviously Need for Speed have made their own stuff to kind of complement the lack of features for some of the cars, because obviously some of the cars are basically brand new. The M2 was only announced, I think, a few days before, or a few weeks before Need for Speed came out, so naturally some of the cars don't have parts. But overall, I've got to say, I mean, just look at this. Just look at that time attack kit, it's mad. So, overall customization is a huge plus. For someone who has been backing customization for so goddamn long, I'm really happy to see it, and overall it's just a great thing to have in the game. Now, again, like I said, there is a few cars which do lack customization. I'm going to quickly show you that right here. Now, obviously, some of this may be licensing issues, and Ghost can't really help that. That's not really their fault. And although it would be nice to see a Liberty Walk kit on a 458, if they can't do it, then there's nothing we can really do about that. Ferrari have had a kind of a history of you know, not really being with customized cars. Like, we'll go over here and buy the Ferrari 458 here. If we go ahead and do it, but there's only Ferrari licensed kits, which leads me to assume that they don't want anything else but their own stuff on the game. Obviously got the GT3 kit. I actually think that looks quite nice. I think it looks quite nice. And then you can't really change much of it. You can, oh no, you can't change the rims. So there is a lack of customization for some of the cars, I'm not gonna lie. But again, there's not much they can do about that. That's just that might be them, that might be Ferrari. The fact you can sense the car, I think, is alright. But yeah, I mean, some of the cars do have a lack of stuff. If it's not licensing for them, some of the cars, I think the Volvo is another one, which had a lack, which we'll go over to there now. I would kind of like to see a bit more customization parts for that, in the sense that like actually making like ghost recreations of stuff. So if we go over to the Volvo, I mean, you could have some mad shit crazy stuff on the Volvo. I know you got the facelift, and I know you can put the splitters on, I believe, but it would be really cool just to kind of put some absolutely batshit crazy stuff on the Volvo. So maybe that could be fixed in future updates. I mean, again, facelifts, this kind of like brings out the fenders ever so much, and you know, there would be kind of a bit cool to do kind of more stuff with that. But again, the customization that is in the game for the cars are just amazing. I mean, look at my garage here. These are actually the 4 cars which I've been using. They all look completely mad. You know, even the Porsche, which is a higher end car, which hasn't got a ridiculous amount of customization, I still made this look like my own. Obviously, it's the undercover Porsche, if you didn't already know, and if you haven't seen that video. But just look at it. It looks really mad. And it looks like my own car. And that's obviously evidently made. So you can make your cars feel your own, although it would be kind of nice to see a few more parts. Again, it's kind of like the map. I would like to see the map ever so slightly bigger, but it's not an issue. I'm not going to go ahead and ramble on about it for days, and, you know, the game doesn't suffer because of it, in my opinion. Again, this is all my opinion. Like, you know, the game isn't perfect, but this is just what I think of it anyway. Anyway, next we're going to go into the wrap editor. So again, wrap editors here. You can obviously set your preset wraps if you want to, but you can also make wraps. As you can see by this long list of wraps for a long list of cars, I have been making a shit ton of wraps, and I've got to say, it's a really good system. Now, obviously, mirroring is coming. That was one of my issues, which has already been solved. You can see here, I've got all these layers and stuff. I've got to say, the wrap editor is basically perfect. I think there's maybe 1 or 2 issues here and there, but honestly, I'd say overall, pretty goddamn good. I mean, I'm trying to look through my list here. I mean, I love the fact they've included old vinyls from old games. So if we go over here, we can see, I mean, we've got all the YouTuber logos to start off with. So we've got Theo's logo there. And then if we go over, is it here? And we've got LPN's logo, and we've got Card Throttle's logo. So the fact they've included community logos is just amazing. As well as that, if we go ahead and go over here, we can see there's loads of Pro Street vinyls, Noise Bomb vinyls, which are just really, really cool to see. You've got the box art vinyl. I love how they brought old vinyls back, and it just feels like there's a lot more variety. Now, one thing I would like to see with the wrap editor generally is a vinyl place, like a marketplace where you can share your vinyls. As well as that, if you go onto the window here, and this isn't for all cars, but if we go ahead and just slap on like a normal slab here, you can see it kind of bends a bit. And you know, when you put in Toyo tires, for example, or something across those lines, the kind of vinyl bends ever so slightly. So having a skew option would be pretty cool. We're gonna go quickly just change this to black, or we'll just do it to metallic, just so we can see it here. You can see it kind of bends a bit, ever so slightly. So having maybe a skew option could solve that, and that could be quite cool. But to be honest, the wrap edit is really good. Not really many issues. I think when you do mess around with large amounts of layers, it can become a bit iffy, and again, that's something that can be solved through patches. But besides that, there's really not any issues with the wrap editor. It's absolutely amazing. So the next thing I've got on my list is the handling slider. So I'm going to go ahead and just come back out of here, going to the handling slider. Amazing addition. I love the fact it's in there. It encourages all types of play. So if you come from the Criterion background of drifting and all that kind of stuff, you can do that. If you come from the black box background, you can do that. But at the same time, with that being said, it's not black box and it's not a Criterion ripoff. It's Ghost. It's their own unique handling style, which I really like. They didn't just go ahead and straight rip it off, you know, another developer. They took their time to rebuild it from the ground up on the new Frostbite engine, and they made it feel like their own. It doesn't feel like a black box game, but it does, if that makes sense. It doesn't feel like a Criterion game, but it does, and it's that kind of connection. They've tried to include all players, which I kind of really appreciate that fact, that they've kind of tried to include all players. One thing I would say about the actual handling style itself is, for novice players, it's very much an overlooked feature. This is something I said ages ago on my top 5 video, which I made of things you should know. It's a very overlooked feature. I feel like that's why a lot of people are complaining, is because they don't really know how to use it. So just kind of making it a bit more clear. Obviously, there's the text at the bottom, but no one really reads that. So what I'm saying is maybe, and this applies to the performance parts too, in Underground 2 and 1, I believe, when you went into the like customization area, it'd give you kind of a talk through. So say I was going to go ahead and apply apply nitrous for the first time, where's nitrous? It will be like, so customize your ride with nitrous, and you know, time nitrous will allow you to build your NAS over time, and extra nitrous and all that kind of stuff. You know, Samantha would basically give you a talk down of what that part does. Now this can apply to the performance customization, but as well as that, it can also apply to the handling style. So maybe the first time you go into the handling style, you get a video or a talk through, like an audio talk through from Amy. That could be quite cool. That's something again that can be added over time, or maybe just a quick video from like someone from the community, maybe. Cough, cough, cough. No, but in all seriousness, that is something that could be added over time. I think that could be a good thing, because it is an overlooked feature. It's made simplified, which I think is really good. The fact that it has been made simplified and made easy to understand for all audiences, that's something which I, again, really appreciate. But it's kind of overlooked, and I think making it more prominent in the fact that, you know, maybe just giving a video, and giving it a bit more understanding to those who aren't as hardcore as people like us is a pretty huge thing. So that's basically about it for that. Also, sharing your tunes, that's another thing which I would like to see. But besides that, there's really not much. Sharing tunes and sharing vinyl stuffs would be really cool. So next we're going to go ahead and talk about performance upgrades. Again, another amazing feature which was returned from the old Need for Speed games. It allows you to make this Porsche, which is 1,000 horsepower, I believe it is, as fast as this Evo over here, which I also believe is about 900 horsepower. I haven't fully upgraded it yet, but basically what I'm trying to say is you can make any car as fast as you want, basically, and you kind of have to grind for the parts ever so slightly. Now, I like this. I love this. I think this is what made the older Underground game so good, is the fact that you could literally do whatever you want. As for the actual performance customization itself, I'd kind of like to see licensed parts similar to Underground 2. It's only a very nitpicky issue. It's not anything overly whelming, but there's not really many issues. I think explaining each part and what it does, like it was in Underground 1 and Underground 2, where it kind of give you a talk down, so explaining what each part does at the first time you go into it. So if you go handbrake, it will explain what the handbrake does, and if you want to listen to it again, you can press X, and every time you go into handbrake, if you just want to refresh your memory, you can press X or something like that to hear the tutorial. That'd be pretty cool. But besides that, there's really not many issues with the performance customization. They got it absolutely spot on. Basically it, really. I think they did really well with the performance customization. I like how each performance like customization part actually adds to the game. So if you add a turbo in, it's actually going to like play the turbo in game. I really like that aspect of things. So besides that, no, I really like the performance customization and the customization in general. So next we're going to go ahead and talk about the garage and the 5-car limit and the car list. So firstly, let's talk about the car list. The car list is amazing, really broad. They kind of missed out on the muscle cars a bit, the classic muscle cars. There's no 69 Camaro, and there's no Charger or Challenger, I believe. There's a new one, but there's not the old one. So classic muscle cars have kind of been overlooked, as well as kind of modern muscle cars. There's the Mustang, the Camaro, and the Dodge Charger, and I think that's it. So overall it's really good, although they did kind of miss on the muscle car side of things. They obviously got the Fox body too. I can understand why it's kind of a JDM inspired game. Like when you think of customization and stuff, you don't necessarily think of a Dodge Charger, so I can kind of get where they're coming from, but it would be kind of cool to see that come in a future update, and it's definitely something that can be improved in a future update. But overall the car list is amazing. You've got Euro cars, you know, you've got the JDM cars, you've got supercars, you've got all types of cars for all types of audiences. Chances are, if you play this game, there's going to be a car in here for you. I think it's about, say, 80 cars, I want to say, 90, 80 cars, 70 cars, something like that, and they're a very broad range of cars, and each car has a healthy amount of customization you can do to it, excluding some of the later cars. I mean, the cars that you'd expect to do customization to, you can do customization to, and I think, honestly, there is a healthy amount of customization for most of the cars there. So, overall, the car list is really good. The garage, again, overall the 5-car limit, I really like it. It's something which is kind of a bit iffy for a lot of people. Some people don't like it, and I'm going to kind of explain why it's in there, because a lot of people don't really understand. So if you have a 5-car limit, basically, it kind of allows you to create more of a bond. If you're a millionaire and you have 18 houses, you're not going to really have an emotional bond with those houses because you've got so many. But if you've only got, you know, like 5, maybe you might have there's more chance of having a personal connection to a house if you've only got 5 compared to like 1800. So that's why it's added in there. So it's not a game about collecting cars, it's a game about building cars, and that's something which people seem to forget. Is it's not a game where your overall objective is, it's not Forza basically. It's not a game where you're collecting cars for fun. It's a game where you're building cars and you're seeking for perfection, as one of the people says in the cutscene. You know, I think that's Travis who says that in the cutscene. You're seeking for perfection, and that's your overall goal. So I think overall, you know, the 5 car list is good. I wouldn't want it to change at all. Maybe, I don't know, maybe, I don't know. No, I wouldn't want it to change it at all. I can't think of any issues. If you do run into 5 cars, you can always sell them if you don't like the ones you have, which is always a good thing. I would say with the selling part of things, the cashback you get, like you get 80% cashback, that's way too much. It should be a lot more stricter, maybe 40%, because then it feels like you're actually losing something. So I would say if you're going to sell cars, just kind of reduce the amount you get for selling cars. So reduce it to about 40%, maybe 30-ish%, 50%, not 80. I feel like 80 is just a bit too generous, especially as you're kind of selling a car which you built up. You should kind of be almost punished for that in a sense. So I kind of feel like the selling price should be about 50 to 40% if you're selling a car, because again I do feel it's a bit too generous at the moment. But besides that, for the car list and the garage and that kind of stuff, again, pretty much spot on. Anyway, next we're going to go on talk about the physics and the handling of the game. Again, it's a great blend of new and old. I think they did perfect of blending the Criterion-esque elements as well as the black box-esque elements, but making it their own. I think they've done that really, really well. I just think they've done really well. Sometimes the cars can kind of just like jolt to the side randomly if the tune isn't good, and that's something which I feel like can be resolved. I feel like if you don't have a good tune for some cars, they really don't handle it awfully well. So maybe just kind of making it a bit easier for players that haven't tuned the car, but still rewarding those that have. Like this, for example, this is a drift build, and you can quite evidently tell as I'm drifting through basically every corner, and it works really well. But if this was just a normal build, I feel like it would be a very, very hard car to control, and it you know, kind of drag to the side sometimes, and it basically, if you don't tune your car, you have a very big chance of it not handling awfully great. So just kind of making it a bit easier to handle if people don't want to tune cars, because that's fair enough. You shouldn't be forced to tune your car, and I feel like that's kind of where we're coming from at the moment, is you kind of are forced to do so. So that could be definitely somewhere where you could be improved, and that's basically it. I think it's really good. Overall, it kind of blends everything from new and old Need for Speed games, and that's a really, really good thing. Next, we're going to go ahead and talk about cops. Now, I love the fact of cops that have come back in the way they've come back. You can't beat the cop, and I love that fact. It makes you feel more like an illegal street racer. And overall, cops are a great addition. Now, they do need a lot of work. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Straight up, they need a lot of work. I feel like you don't really get challenged an awful lot by the police. You can easily get away from them. Like now, I'm trying to get away, and I'm basically already got away. They don't really push themselves against you, and they really, really should. They're very, very inconsistent at times. Like sometimes you'll have 6 cop cars on you at like one, well, not 6, but maybe like 2 cop cars on you, and that's basically it. Or maybe 3, and then sometimes you'll have 1 and he'll go into a wall, and that'll be it. Like, it's very inconsistent at times, and sometimes they can be very dumb. Again, something that can be improved over time. I feel like the amount of cops that are chasing you at any given time should be increased also. In Most Wanted, you could have like 20 cops on you, and that's what made that game so mad, was the fact that you had masses upon masses upon masses of cops. Now, obviously, this would inflict with the always online feature if you were coming around a corner with 20 cops, but at the same time, I mean, it doesn't even necessarily have to be more, like not 20 anyway, like just even like 8 cops behind you would just be absolutely just mad. I feel like if you are on heat level 3, you should really not have to wait for the cops at all. They should come after you. And they shouldn't, like, you shouldn't have to wait for them. Like, you should be able to just come up straight to them. Another thing is maybe when you go in pursuit, having that same system in like Most Wanted 2005, where your cooldown meter would actually like represent in your heat level. So you might have a heat level 5 car, and if you don't use that car for a certain amount of time, the heat level goes down, sort of thing. That would be really cool. So if you do have like a pursuit car and you just want to get straight into a heat level 5 pursuit, you can do that. So I do think the pursuits and the cops generally do need to be tweaked, but I'm really glad it's came back. The spike strips and the roadblocks, the permanent roadblocks, are just absolutely mad. But it needs tweaking. Definitely needs tweaking. I'm not gonna lie. So the next, we're gonna go ahead and talk about the map. So we're going to go ahead and back out to the map here. Map's really broad, really big. Ooh, that big glitch there. Really big. You've got Crescent Mountains, which kind of, like Theo said in his video, reminds you of the Rivals area, and it's really kind of good just for a mountain-esque area. Then you've got all the inner city areas, as well as the highways, which again are really good for highway battles and inner city kind of drifting montage stuffs. And then you've got El Rey, which is kind of the Japanese-esque mountain toge areas. Again, really diverse, really good. I kind of feel like it could be cool if it was ever so slightly bigger, but it's not hindering the game at all. I don't think just its size is ever hindering the game. It's a perfect size. A bit bigger would be great, but that's me just nitpicking here. I think a lot of the things I'm saying here are nitpicking. Anyway, next we're going to go on to Always Online and All Drive and multiplayer, sorry. So All Drive, it's a good idea. In essence, it's a good concept, and they've very much improved it from the concept that Rivals had, definitely. But multiplayer needs to be very, very, very drastically improved. Private lobbies needs to come back. I don't know why that's not in the game to start off with. The crew system is kind of a bit flawed. Sometimes when you invite people to crews, they will just disappear. As well as that, you know, sometimes when you invite people to crews, you actually have to back out of the game as a whole and then go back to the main menu, and that's only possible if you close down the application and open it again. I feel like sometimes when you open the crews, I don't know, I just feel like it can be improved in many areas. Multiplayer lobbies, like how the crew does it with PvP, that could be really cool. They could add in more modes, which we'll talk about shortly. I feel like, you know, there's a lot of things which they missed out on with the multiplayer. The multiplayer is extremely simple. To get into an eight-person event, you need to get 8 people in a crew, and I've only ever done that once, and that's only because I was playing with subscribers. If I wasn't playing with subscribers, I wouldn't be in an 8-person race. So having that option to play with 8 players, even if you aren't you know, in a crew, so just going into playlists, that would be a really cool idea, and I do think that needs to be added. Besides that, there's not really anything else. I think the all-drive system does work very well. For example, meeting people outside the garage, that works really, really well. I think if you go into the garage, you jump into the garage and wait outside, there's someone bound to be there at some point in your play session, which is really cool. I think you could make use of the parking lot, so opening up the parking lots and have them as another meeting area, that could be quite cool. But besides that, really not many issues with that. Always Online has been pretty goddamn good because there's obviously dedicated servers, so I haven't really ran into many issues with the Always Online. The only thing I can say about the Always Online is you can't pause, which is annoying because, you know, say if there's someone at the door who has a pizza and you need to go get your pizza, you can't get it, obviously. That's quite annoying. But besides that, not really many issues with the Always Online, at least that I've run into. For modes, the modes are really good for what they have in there. I would like to see a few more in there, like endurance races that we saw in Underground 1. So like 10 lap races, which is absolutely mad. As well as that Street X races, so just basically races without NOS. Look at that, as soon as I mentioned meeting outside of the safe house, there's someone there. But yeah, like, so Street X races, so basically just races around derelict areas where you have no NOS, and it's just kind of bare bones, like just pure skill racing. More tracks, again, I think I've played through all the tracks on Xbox One, actually. If we go up here, yeah, I have. I played through all the tracks and all the events, so just having more tracks and stuff would be pretty cool to be added over time. As well as that, just more modes. Drag racing, if manual transmission was to ever be a thing, I'd love drag racing to come back. Cops and robbers, similar to how Need for Speed Undercover did it, so basically there's money in the middle. The cops need to get the money, the cops need to defend the money, and the robbers need to actually get the money into their base, and that would be really cool, I think. And that could be a really cool multiplayer mode for the playlists. Hide and seek, infected, all that kind of stuff, that'd be really cool. Besides that, it's more just adding to what's already there. What's already there is amazing. I feel like it's a platform to add on to so much more, and these are kind of just suggestions on what I think could be improved on the game. As for the graphics, I've only got one thing to say for that. It's just, look at this, it's just amazing. They're just amazing. Frame drops every now and then, but overall, just amazing graphics, amazing frame rate. I don't know how they've managed to keep this at 30 on an Xbox One, but somehow they've done it. The Xbox One, I believe, is running at 900p, and the Xbox, or the PS4 is running at 1080p. So there is a slight difference. You can tell that the Xbox One has an ever so slightly grain. It's more grainy, but it's nothing to the point where it's going to, again, deter you from playing the game. The soundtrack, again, really good, amazing variety. I would kind of like to see a bit more rock and a bit more 2000s rap, just for the nostalgia purposes, and overall just making it a bit more gritty. I think that's a really big thing throughout the whole of this thing. It's just making it a bit more gritty with the soundtrack. It feels like everyone's friends, and that's not the way it should be. It should feel like you're doing something wrong. So maybe, you know, in the next Need for Speed, just kind of having that a bit more of like independentness, and you're not really relying on your crew members. You're out there, you're on your own, and you're an outlaw. That's what it should be like for me anyway. So just having the kind of story a bit more gritty, that's definitely something, and just the soundtrack and that kind of stuff, quote unquote having it more underground, basically. Besides that, you know, pretty good for the soundtrack. The AI, obvious rubber banding. Now, there's nothing wrong with obvious rubber banding, but I just want it to be a bit less obvious. There's been rubber banding in Need for Speed games since the dawn of time. So maybe just having that option to turn off catch-up as well, like Underground 2 and 1 and Most Wanted had, that'd be really cool. So they do kind of need to kind of balance that a bit, and that is already coming, so there's not really a big issue with that. You know, I mean, AI can randomly spawn in events, which is a bit annoying, and they can mindlessly like drift into players, which causes problems when you're in drift events, which is again quite annoying. But besides that, not really many issues. The atmosphere, again, kind of already talked about that. It's a bit too happy. I'd like to see it a bit more hardcore, a bit more gritty, a bit more quote unquote underground. It needs to be a bit more illegal, and that's really about it, to be honest, for all of the points I have. I could go on for this for days and days and days about things I'd love to see in the game, but overall, those are kind of my thoughts. So just to recap before we end this video, it's the best Need for Speed game we've had in years, without a doubt. There's no competition. It's the best racing game I've played in years, period. The customization is phenomenal, the wrap editor is phenomenal, the map's phenomenal, the story, it's the best, again, I've played in a racing game in a very long time, and I'm very grateful for what Ghost have done. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, the game does have issues, like, some of them are pretty apparent. And that's no lie to anyone, really. It's obvious. Every game, especially on launch nowadays, they're going to have issues. But I think the way that Need for Speed has handled itself, I mean, they invited people to go out to the studios, for God's sake, to kind of, you know, make the game a community-orientated thing. And that's something that you'll find that not a lot of developers do nowadays, and it's sad because they should. And, you know, Need for Speed, although it does have its flaws, I've got to say it is one of the best Need for Speeds we've had in ages. You know, it is attempted to appeal to all fan bases, and I'd say it's done so pretty goddamn well. And yeah, it's the platform for something great. I think it's going to be like GTA Online, where the first patch is going to be very different from the last patch of the game. You know, the way the game looks at the moment is going to be very different to the end product at the end of its life cycle. Obviously, it's not going to be supported for, you know, 6-7 years, or maybe it will. I don't know. I can't read the future. But as far as I know, you know, it's probably not going to be supported, and you know, when the next Need for Speed comes. And that's how most games go. But as far as I can tell, you know, for the future of this game, it's bright. And, you know, if you want yourself a fun arcade racer, you've got to buy this. I've seen so many people compare this to Forza, and you've got to realise Need for Speed has never been like Forza. It's an arcade racer for a reason. There's a reason why your wheels aren't spinning into the wall like Forza does. Like, there's a reason why you can control a 1,000 horsepower car and you're not dying. It's because it's an arcade racer and you're supposed to have fun. It's a game. That's what games are supposed to be. They're supposed to be fun. And I have more than enough fun with Need for Speed. If you're buying this and expecting it to, you know, last until Forza Horizon 3 comes, then it's not the game for you, and you should probably unsubscribe to the channel, to be honest, because that's not really the mentality I want my subscribers to have. I kind of want you guys to be on board with everything that I have planned with Need for Speed. It's an arcade racer in its fullest, and people seem to forget that for some reason, expect it to be simcade, you know. Need for Speed's never really been realistic. It's always been, you know, an arcade racer, besides some of the shift games, but even then you could argue that wasn't really a simulation, so to speak. It was more a simcade experience. And I've got to say, if you enjoyed Underground 1 or Underground 2 or any Need for Speed for that matter, you know, they've really catered to all tastes, and you will definitely like this game. It's got definitely a Carbon-like feel to it with the always nighttime. I love the fact it's always nighttime. But again, it makes it feel like the older games, and that's only a good thing for me. Obviously, some people are kind of want it to be daytime, but for someone who's kind of been asking for a Carbon-Underground 3, for me originally, I was kind of asking for a Carbon done right. And honestly, it's Carbon done right with a million things more for me. And that's just my opinion. Obviously, everyone has a different opinion. You guys might disagree, but that's just how I see it. I'm in the same boat as Theo. I feel like I obviously express my opinions a lot sometimes, and a lot of people attack for no real valid reason. Especially about Need for Speed, a lot of thoughts of people more specifically, they kind of mindlessly bash on the game, and I feel like it is the best Need for Speed we've had in years. Better than Most Wanted 2012 without a doubt. I hated that game. You know, better than Rivals without a doubt. It's right. I mean, to be honest, it is right. It's got Rivals elements in there. I wouldn't say it's Rivals, but it's got Rivals elements in there, and you know, it's got a lot of other Need for Speed elements in there. But it's a Ghost game, and you can tell that. Ghost is still a new studio, and they're still kind of, you know, fleshing in, I guess. And, you know, they're only going to get better. Need for Speed from now on out, it's only going to get better. This is the starting point of a new revolution, as far as I can see. And I'm just really happy with the way it's going. Really happy with the way it's going. You know, it's not Forza, and I think people need to realise that. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and hopefully I gave an honest opinion. I mean, but it is honest. I hope you guys believe that. You know, again, like I've said many times throughout this video, I want to reiterate it. It's not a perfect game, and that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying, it's the best game we've had in a very long time from Need for Speed. As I just crash. And I've got to say, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for Ghost and the way they've gone down. They've molded the game around us, and that's evident. It's really evident, and I've got to say thank you to Ghost, and thank you to EA as well, because obviously Ghost did it, but EA had to kind of put the backing behind it, and they listened. And from a Need for Speed fan, someone who's played the series for a very long time, thanks. Thanks a lot. You know, I've said it, the game needs a lot of improving with the cops and a few other features, but god damn, it's a good freaking start to what is looking like a prosperous future for Need for Speed. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like, subscribe. I will see you guys in the next one. You guys have been awesome. Stay safe and peace.